if you can mute yourself when you're not talking on the lower left corner, then you have control over yourself being muted and not muted. And at the same time, we have a good line. Hello, everyone. It's great to see you.
Hello.
Hey, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Guten Abend.
Hey, Joya. Yeah, guten Abend.
Guten Abend.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon.
Good middle of the night.
Good middle of the night.
Middle of the night in the Philippines.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Someone has their camera.
Hello. This is
Sister
Sandra.
There we go.
Hey, Sister Maureen.
Beautiful.
Great
Yeah.
to see you.
Great to see you.
Hello. Yes.
Sister Maureen, are you in France?
Yes, I am right now.
Okay, great.
I am in the northwest part, Anjay.
Aha, great. Great, fantastic. Okay.
A while ago, just to let you know that there were two of us waiting. We thought it was 6 p.m. already, but it was like we were advanced. So
Yeah.
the other one was Rachel from India.
Right. Yeah, I sent her a message letting her know when to that we were starting in a few minutes. So hopefully she'll come back on.
Yes.
Great. And Anine, first time to see you. Hello. Oh, your mic is muted, but
But great to see you.
But good to see you. Okay. So I'll just our guest is today our guest faculty is Wolfgang Aurose, and we're very happy to have him with us today. He's really pioneering a new way of understanding how to heal and how to transform the character of and the traumas and different characteristics of our nations. He has his deep spiritual roots are in the teachings of Sri Aurobindo, and he has brought forward some of Aurobindo's teaching into his own understanding of nation, soul, and shadow. And in our program here, where we are, we have basically, as you may have read in the introduction to this module, we've been in the last two modules trying to lay a unifying perspective and a recognition of prior unity as being the ultimate truth of existence. That there is not someone who stands or something that stands outside of existence. We're all part of one enormous process, and we are all start from a place that is already one, even though we're very accustomed to our habits of mind see ourselves as separate from. But that at a deeper level, that is an illusion, or is a different. At a deeper level, there is unity in terms of what is true in terms of physically, and at the level of existence and or consciousness. So from that position of prior unity, we now want to begin to look at difference. And how do these differences live within us, and how does that relate to where we to what we need to do in order to create a truly healing and a truly transformative global dialogue? And that's where Wolfgang's work comes in.
Yeah, maybe to say, because I think that Wolfgang is very specifically kind of the right person for this second module, because third module, because as Elizabeth said he studied the work of Sri Aurobindo in Indian mystic, and he for quite a long time was head of the German Auroville Center and of Auroville International. And if maybe people know, Auroville is a beautiful center devoted to the work of Sri Aurobindo and the mother in India. And what he did there also in relationship to creating a world unity and a recognition of the different qualities of nations, that basically is part of what's happening in Auroville. I'm sure, Wolfgang, you will say more about this, is very much in sync of what we try to do, a global dialogue between the cultures from the perspective of unity and diversity at the same time. We know each other, Wolfgang and myself, already for a long time. Wolfgang is German-born, lived for a long time in Germany. We met here in Germany, but now you are living in the USA. You are specifically worked also about the identity of Germany and the German soul, and your work about this is something that we were in dialogue for a long time. And you wrote a book about nation soul that really kind of brought us to the idea you should be part of this program. So Wolfgang, it's fantastic to have you here. It's great to hear your perspective, which is very much informed by Aurobindo, but also by your own life experience, your own spiritual background, and your own thinking about global dialogue and global community, if I may say so. Welcome to the course.
Thank you, Tom and Elizabeth. So I'm one of the good morning attendants. Here is a beautiful, well, it's rainy, but it's somehow a very nice winter morning in Oregon, where I live. It's a very current topic, what we are talking about. Just this morning I was reading the news. I was reading what the people, the leaders, political and economical leaders in Davos in Switzerland are very concerned about one of the experiments of the future of nations, which is the European Union. They are very concerned that this union will fall in pieces. The European nations get again like this petty nationality and fall back in this stage of continence. So it's a current topic to find a way to evolve our understanding, our definition of nations. And this is possible because nations can evolve. This is part of the integral thinking, which sees evolution is evolution of consciousness, basically. And this is true not only for each one of us, it's true for all humanity and for collective entities. They are all evolving. In my book, I call this evolving agency in humans, in single humans, and in a collective, as in an all traditional way, as a soul. This is the focus of the deep consciousness in humans, which is the agent of the evolution of consciousness. So, as I said, each one of us has a soul, it is evolving, and each collective, so each family has a soul. Each tribe has a soul. Each collective, each religion has a soul. But most of these souls have a limited way and possibility to evolve. They just evolve to a certain point. A family soul is bound to the genetic of this family. So it has limits. It can't go beyond the genetic of the family, by definition. A religion can evolve just to a certain point because it's bound to the mythical origin. And mythical is defined as eternal truth, which is once given and doesn't evolve. So the nation is maybe this collective in human evolution, which is up till now the furthest entity which also has a soul and which has the best options to evolve. So this is a point we can go in co-evolution with our nation, therefore. I'll give you an example. Like a family, like a nation can give itself a new constitution from time to time, the way they're living. So this is freedom, a greater freedom than a family has, or a tribe has. So when we talk about this evolution of nations, what would this mean? It would mean that nation fulfill one of the most important tasks of their being, which is the integration of their members.
Wolfgang, if I may interrupt you, because in the pre-conversation you also allowed us that we may ask one or other question
Of course, yeah.
during your presentation. And one question I would like to ask you right away, why you're talking about soul as your term. One could also talk about the characteristics or the identity of a nation, of a clan, a family, or a person. But you use the soul term, which has a different sound to it. And I would just love to hear why you chose this term and not the others.
Of course, this is very essential. I choose soul because it's a term which has traditionally a connection to our transpersonal origin, more than characteristics of a personality and all that. A soul, in my understanding, is a twofold entity. It has two main characteristics. One is that it's connecting us, it's part of our origin, of our transpersonal, I call it, our divine origin. And the other aspect is that it gives us a unique expression, a unique personality. So it's both. This means evolution of a soul of each one of us is leading to two goals. One is to bring us in a conscious reconnection with our origin. And the second is experiencing our uniqueness, our totally uniqueness in this world of each one of us. In a way, for a logical mind, this would seem like a contradiction. The either or is not possible, both. And this is part of a new consciousness. It is part of an integral consciousness which can grasp both aspects of our soul. And this is true, of course, for nations too. This is when the very define soul for each one of us. It is true for a nation, for a collective. But for a nation, it would mean a nation, a collective, has somehow to reconnect with their origin, where they're connected with the oneness with all the other nations of all of us. And it has to stand and to own its unique features, its unique profile. And both is, again, it sounds like impossible. How can a nation do this? A collective do this? I think it's possible the same way like for each one of us it's possible.
May I ask one further question about the soul? You described it a little bit already, but one way to understand the soul, also talking about the individual soul, and it's interesting to use the same thinking, talking about something like a collective nation soul, is a soul is also our unique relationship to the divine. So what you are saying is that the different nations, different cultures, not only have certain characteristics, they have, if I may interpret you in this way, also their specific connection or their specific relationship to the divine whole that is important to be aware of, to understand and to know yourself. And later on we'll also talk about the shadow sides of nations, as nations, like persons, also do have their own shadow sides. But may I interpret you that way, that having a soul for a nation, for a culture, means that from a perspective of a divine whole, if I may say so, there's something specific, being German, European, Indian, Chinese, Latin American, African, that is important if we want to understand what the world soul is, and we will go there later on. We have to understand these specific qualities that we have in relationship to the whole.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think this uniqueness plays a role for the next step in evolution, which is a kind of forming a world soul, a soul of all humanity, which is a future step, but it's the next step. And for this world soul, I come a little bit later to that again, it needs the whole range of human possibilities, of all the cultures. This is needed because the whole consists of all parts. And this is there's something beautiful and huge growing, which is the world soul, which consists of all this Indian part and German part and French part, and each one contributes, like in an orchestra, different music instruments.
Mm.
And this will be a grandiose concert. So once the musicians have learned to play in an orchestra, not to play alone. Yeah. How can nations evolve? They have, as I said, they have to integrate. It's the first step. And integration means going beyond a racial or cultural or language or religious definition of a nation. This is just the beginning point. At the beginning, people in a certain world area define themselves as having the same genetics, the same language, the same religion. This is the beginning. But in the next step, in a more evolved step, they discover this is not the real uniqueness what they share. This is the real uniqueness is they are a community of fate. It's a certain way to experience the world. It's a certain way to contribute to the world. It's a certain way to experience the world, which is different in Germany or in India or in France or in Russia. And it doesn't matter at all if you have black hair or blonde hair or blue eyes or whatever. Even the language is all secondary to that. But this is people, and the First Nations are growing in this stage. They understand this is necessary to integrate all the elements of a nation into this community of faith.
And faith in that you don't really mean religion per se. A community of fate.
Yeah.
Aha. I thought you said faith.
Yeah, community of destiny.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Community of destiny, I think.
Okay, great.
Another aspect of the transformation and the evolution of nations would be the healing of the past. The same like for each one of us. If we want to evolve, we have to heal to a certain, at least to a certain point, to a sufficient degree, our karmic or whatever wounds and hurts, and past, our past. And this is the same for nation.
Wolfgang, if I may come in here again, I want to ask you a little further about the fate, because I find this very fascinating. In fact also very revealing and enlightening, because basically what you're saying on one hand has a very pragmatic point that you're making, is our uniqueness forms, our shared uniqueness as a nation forms just through the history and the shared fate that we are sharing with each other. And it's obvious that certain parts of the world have different fate. The history in Indonesia developed very different than the history in Canada. The history in Peru very different than the history in Mozambique. And to see that the specific qualities of our cultural soul is created, that's the way I understand you, through the fate, which is basically our shared, you also brought the word karmic history. And on one hand, this is very pragmatic, but on the other hand, it really allows that who we are is our way through time until now, and how our unique moment right now is kind of formed. The particular color of our history. Is this the way the point you want to make?
I think evolution is learning to determine our own destiny.
Mm.
So we're all starting, and our destiny is mostly determined by the collective, or by the mystical origins, or by others. And evolution means to become aware about this and to start determine yourself and to co-evolve. This is true for nations too. So in the beginning, of course I know Germany quite well. Germany has a very special history. I mean, each nation has a special history, but many people looked at Germany, what happened, of course, during the war, during the Nazis, and later. And the Germans learned a little bit, I think, to heal their past. And what's going on right now, many people are wondering why they are taking all these Arabs, which are so alien, one could say, to Germany. Why are they taking 1 million Arabs in their country? Because I think they have learned, even if some people are resisting whatever, but Merkel has an expression of this. They have learned that nation is much more than blonde hair and blue eyes in the case of Germany. So it doesn't matter at all where the members are coming from, as long as they adjust to the soul field of German experience. We hope most of them are willing to learn this and to do this. And the Germans have also learned a little bit to heal the past and to do reconciliation and healing with what they did to the Jew and to many other people in the world. So, for instance, there was this German Chancellor, Willy Brandt, in the 70s, and he did a really touching and spontaneous prostration in the Warsaw Ghetto. And the whole world was watching this, and this was such an authentic and sincere gesture. This was a gesture of the German soul. And people could see this, and you have seen it all over the world, and the Polish and the Russian who were cruelly treated by the Germans, and they could forgive to a certain point. And Germany became a little bit free from their past. So this is a way, and of course, every nation has, how you say in English, skeleton in their closet. And it needs to work on them to a certain degree, to become free, to evolve.
Mm.
But now I want to talk about what each one of us has to do with this process. This is just a collective nation. But we are all single persons. We are all members of many nations. And what we can do is to foster this. And this is amazing because actually nations, the collective is dependent on the individual of each one of us. So the single one is the starting point for a collective. So the more single members of a nation do a certain process, this integrational process and this healing process with themselves, also for their own development, the greater field of its nation, of its country, is affected by this. Like we do so-called Soul of Nation workshops. My partner and wife, Soleil, she will do a short exercise with you now. To give you an example, how we help people experience how they are imprinted, how they are shaped, how they are part of the nation, if they want it or not, for the good and for the bad.
Mm.
Like we share, each one of us share to a certain degree unique qualities of our nation, but each one of us is also to a certain degree burdened by the shadows of our nation.
Mm.
And it's necessary to integrate the qualities and to accept them and to heal as good as possible the shadows. And as much as we do this for ourselves, we do it also for our country.
Yeah, it's if I can jump in here, Wolfgang. I mean, it's interesting you bring in the example of Willy Brandt, and so that's one person who made this gesture, but that gesture had a resonance and had an effect. I mean, he was the chancellor after all, or what? But it's the nation can only the nation soul can only be affected by, or any collective only can function through the engagement of the individuals.
No, the collective has other means. So Willy Brandt is, in this case, he was a personification of a soul, right in this moment, just in this moment.
Mm.
Another way would be, let's say, the Truth and Reconciliation Committees, which many of you might know.
From South Africa.
In South Africa by Nelson Mandela.
Mm.
And meet them in other countries too, in Rwanda. This is a deep soul integration and healing.
Mm.
Because many nations are deeply split. Like India split between Muslims and the Hindus, and others are political split, and minorities are excluded. So nearly each nation is divided internally. And there's a lot of wounds and hurt and pain left by this fighting of this element of a nation. And these Truth and Reconciliation Committees are a wonderful way to heal this. They are not justice. I can't go into the detail now about this process, but it's a soul process. It's just necessary that it's outspoken and that people can be heard and can say, we were hurt by this party, and the other party can say, and we were hurt by this action, and everybody is listening to each other.
There's something that strikes me as I hear you talking, because somehow the relationship between the individual and the nation soul, as you're describing, also directly translate to this course here. Because on one hand, you can say there are just 80 people around the globe who are interested, what we call global dialogue, and it's kind of an individual engagement, which it is. But on the other hand, what you are hinting to, or at least how I hear you, is we are not only sitting here as individuals, we are also sitting as representatives of our particular nation background.
Right.
Somehow that we from these different parts of the world, out of whatever reason, have the interest to engage in something that we call global dialogue, has this individual side to it, but it has also the side to it that through us, somehow, it may be sound too big, but I think it is not. It's the nations through individuals that try to create new ways of global dialogue. This is maybe a very small attempt to do so, but it's much more than just the individual attempt. It's just more than the eight individuals here. It is also related to the nations that are part of our own making as individuals. So we hold a responsibility that is for us as individuals, but we also hold a responsibility for the nations that we come from.
Yeah, it's far beyond statistical or rational quantities. It's we call it. It's like compare it with a homeopathic process. It's the information. It's information which is given in the whole. In homeopathy, as you know, like a tiny little information which is given in the whole can change the whole system, the whole body in this. And this is the same. The more people like you, a small number in quantities, but the more you go in this process, you do it, and this is information which is given and transformed, and you're transferred in the body of, in the soul field of your country. But I want to introduce my wife and partner, Soleil. She's a great workshop leader, and she can make a short exercise, if you want, you're invited, to get a glimpse how we can experience the reality of this imprint of our nation, of our country, in our body.
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you. Soleil.
Okay, thank you, everyone. It's a privilege to join you here today. So I'm going to see if we can. So let's begin. We're going to first tune into your own spiritual heart center. So it's useful if you can take your right hand and just put it, I'm going to stand up here a little bit, so you can put it over your sternum to help you focus, and then close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply and send your focus and your breath to the area of your physical heart with the intention of feeling into your embodied soul, the aspect of your soul which in its own dimension can be found here, the center area of your heart. Breathing in to your embodied soul energy, your own individual essence, your unique expression of the divine. Feel into the qualities of your own uniqueness. You may see colors or light. Okay. Now, keeping some awareness there, think about your nation of origin and think for a moment of your favorite quality what is something uniquely from your country that you really love and you really admire, and you're so happy that your nation expresses this quality? So now, thinking of that quality, I want you to take a scan through your body, just like you're looking inside, and different parts of your body feel differently. And see if you can find a place anywhere inside your body that also has this vibration, that quality that your nation also has, that you like so much. It could be anywhere in your body. And if you can reach it with your other hand, just put a hand on that part of your body. And I'm going to demonstrate by putting my other hand on my shoulder here. So I've got one hand over my heart center and one hand, for me, I'm saying it's my shoulder. And breathe into this part of your body that also resonates with this favorite quality of your nation. Now just take a moment and feel some connection. Maybe you see it, or you just breathe it, or you feel it. But imagine these qualities are expressing and sharing with each other. From your uniqueness to this quality in another part of your body. And you may notice that these qualities help each other, support each other. That your heart center, your embodied soul energies connect with this essence that you share with your nation, and vice versa. So just breathe in and notice that. Is there time to do the other?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Now, we're asked to also see, you can keep that one hand on your heart center, to notice if there's some quality in your nation that you don't particularly like. You might call it a shadow quality of your nation. And today, you're just going to see if there's a part of your body that also resonates with that shadow. And don't worry, we're not going to leave you in that shadow there today, but you can just close your eyes and scan down through your body and notice if there's any other part of your body that holds a similar energy to this thing about your nation you don't particularly like, a quality. And put your other hand there. Now, in a workshop, we would spend time with this, but for today, we're simply going to ask that whatever that positive that you felt in your own essence, in your own heart center, you're going to send that positive energy, whether it's love or light or acceptance or compassion, whatever you feel at your heart, send it into that part of your body where you sense that negative resonance. And you're simply going to invite that negative energy to notice this energy that comes from your heart center. And we're going to invite it to change. Today, everything is an invitation. So just notice if breathing energy from your heart center to that negative energy, if that negative energy changes spontaneously on its own. So that is our little taster for today, and I'm going to give you back to Wolfgang. And you'll have some time for if you have any questions that came up about this exercise in a few minutes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Soleil.
Yeah, I just want to give a last, in regard to this exercise. There might be possibility I learned that you are forming kind of smaller groups as part of your whole process.
Right.
It's worth to share a little bit if you made a special discovery or surprising or whatever you want to share it with each other. I think it's good to speak about this. We can't do it now, but maybe in this one of your small group formations. I want to say a final word to the future of this nation vision. As I said before, it's leading to a global unity, to a world soul. As soon as there are enough nations have cleared their past and their healing and their integration. One could see, I live in America, in the States, in the US. And the US are in some way quite advanced. They can integrate people from all over the world. This is a great phenomenon. People come from India, from China, from Germany, from Russia, and they become, after a short while, Americans. So they are beyond being bound to any specific race. I mean, of course, there's racism, but basically, they are growing into a multicultural, multiracial community. And this is in the evolutionary track. I think this is a very great point, evolutionary point of the states, beside all the shadows. But even more interesting or further going than the States is Europe, the European Union. The European Union is aiming to a new entity, not necessarily a new state, but a new entity of individualized nations. So there's not such an assimilation. In America and the US, it's assimilation. The people come from all over the world, but there's a strong pressure. You become American. If you want to be here, you become American with our values, which is fine. Most people adapt to this, and they become Americans. And they're American with Indian background, German background, whatever. But the European Union is evolutionary a next step. This would be a union of unique Italians and French and British, hopefully, and whatever. And this would be a new kind of integration. So I think this is a vision, this could be a vision for a world union, this European Union. Therefore, what I say, and that at the beginning, that the people in Davos, these leaders, when they say we have to fight for Europe, for that experiment. Many people feel that something, it's a world experiment. It's not just a continent which is searching for peace or something. It's an evolutionary experiment. Therefore, we have to help them. I think this world union is, of course, a wonderful vision. I compared it with the orchestra. But it's much more, I think. I think even this is not the end of evolution. Sri Aurobindo and others are just making very small remarks because there's not much to talk about more than a world union. So for us, it looks like a final goal. But it could be that evolution is going far beyond this, even far beyond a world-centric consciousness, even far beyond a world union. Wilber is talking about the cosmocentric consciousness, which is much more than just the global consciousness. So it's a necessary step for evolution. And it will be achieved one way or the other. And we can help that it goes in a not too harsh way, that evolution goes more smooth than in the past. This is our job. This is our job as awakening individuals, to become partner of evolution, to become partner of the evolution of ourselves, of course, and of our countries. This is where I feel there's a call and an invitation to all of us now. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wolfgang. Thank you. I think we have time for a couple of questions. If you have a question for Wolfgang, you can raise your hand and we can see you. It may take a little bit to kind of digest this, also to take it in and get the import or of what Wolfgang is saying. But any questions? I know. I think for myself, I think it's when we think about working on ourselves or we think about developing ourselves, we don't tend to look at this dimension of our reality, the fact that we are deeply, profoundly shaped by the national cultural experiences that we've had, and that those carry a momentum and a perspective, a set of assumptions, and those assumptions and so forth have been played out in history in ways that often have caused damage from one culture to another. And I think that this way of looking at who we are, I think adds a kind of dimensionality that is very unique, and I think is very important in order to liberate ourselves more deeply from these patterns, and therefore be part of liberating our cultures.
I think Joanna wanted to ask something.
Joanna?
Joanna,
I'm on now, yes.
yes, you are.
Thank you so much for what you had to say. I really appreciate it. And I wonder if you have a personal experience that you could share with us that has to do with your own evolution and what impact you saw that have in your environment.
Well, as a German, I have this background that when I was a young man, a young boy and a young man, half of my life, I didn't want it to be a German at all, like many in my generation, because it was such a horrible past, and I don't want to be connected with this past, and so I just denied being a German. I went in other countries, But then I found that something is missing because, of course, we are deeply shaped and we are part of our nation. We are fractals of our nation. So it's a very amputated life if you deny your national background. You can do it for a while, but I mean, something is wrong and you miss something. And there was one experience I was in a group, and Tom and Elizabeth were mentioning I was working for OWiD, this international community. In OWiD, they make pavilions of national souls in order to go beyond. And we were thinking that we had the task to think about the German soul, the German soul pavilion, how it could look like in OWiD, in this part. And this was our mission, our task. And so we tried to, all of us felt very uncomfortable with this, and okay, but we should do it. And we went to what you don't like in Germany. We asked ourselves. It was easy, everybody, yeah, this I don't like, and that, and this is easy to answer for most of us, to say what we don't like. And then there was the question, what do you love in Germany? We're all Germans. And this question, we had our eyes closed in a group, and this question was such an incredible experience. It was like, I was sitting there and there were huge guardians who said, you are a German, you don't ask this question again. This is a question which leads again to the Nazis. As a German, there's nothing more to love on your country. Imagine, this was how we are shaped after the war. So I felt deeply guilty. How can I ask to love something in my country? And this way, the guardians were really threatening and say, don't ask this question again and don't go there. But somehow I had the inner strength to insisting. And suddenly there was a huge block, like a huge stone, a rock rolling away in front of my eyes, and there was a landscape opening. It wasn't a specific German landscape, it was just a landscape which was part of my home identity, which was blocked quite literally. And since then I could feel how much I love also this part of my identity. I'm critical with Germany, both, but I love Germany too. And it's a little bit like parents. When we grow up, as child, mostly we love our parents and we see them as great, and then later become skeptical and critical. And it's a matter, the mature way is to have both, to see them as partners. You see what their qualities are, and you're thankful and grateful. The same with your country. But you see also where it has to improve, and the shadows and the wounds, and you help them to get over this and to become aware of this. It's not longer patriarchic. Patriarchic means father. So the parents, our countries are normal our parents. So they are our partners. So they're depending on us. We are depending on them, but they're becoming dependent on us as partners. They are soul partners, I call them. Yeah, this is my personal main initiation is this experience led me to write this book and all that.
No, actually, that's a profound shift, because I think that there's often a kind of impatience and just, it is actually, I can feel it. It's very similar to disappointment in one's parents, being disappointed in one's country. And,
Right.
and to make that shift to realizing that one is embodying, that one can partner with one's nation soul because it's part of oneself anyway.
Right.
But to have that as a conscious engagement is a very different thing.
Right.
In fact, I find it very dramatic what you're saying, the shift that you're suggesting from a parent relationship to a partner relationship to our nations. It's really something to consider, because one can see how our nation shaped us, but you are calling us for a very adult relationship to our national identity and to our national soul, basically saying to take active responsibility to shape the development of our nation souls.
Exactly.
So that they can play a different part in the world soul.
Right. And I think this is needed. If you don't do this, nations are dependent on each one of us. Unless they are falling back and they are going in loops and in circles. And it's an evolutionary point now. It's the time. It's the right time to do this now.
Kelly, you were raising your hand. I will unmute you here. And you are, oh, now we are muted both, and you're muted again. So I do it a second time. Now you are muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Wolfgang. I'm deeply moved by also by what you just shared, and lately I've started a very small in number forum with a couple of other African American people from around the country. And we're really talking about what is very present in the psyche of the United States, which is police violence against our African American communities, and a sense of shame and guilt that a lot of white people have around this issue, and a lot of the anger and fear that's in the African American communities. And it's a very charged issue, and none of us have any training in mediation or in these kinds of conversations. We just decided to all talk about it because none of us had the experience of having any kind of forum in that way. And I'm very excited about the potential, and I'm also have some concern about doing it in a good way or a right way. And I'm curious, I would love to know if you have some advice about these kinds of conversations that we might all be thinking about having.
I write in my book about my host country, which is America. And I think there is on two levels. The one I mentioned is it's individual, like each one what you do. And if you're inwardly going through a process of reconciliation with the black part of America, then this is information which goes in a much larger degree in the whole than you would expect. This is what I mentioned before. And there's another point of collective processes which can be done. Again, I mentioned the truth and reconciliation process, which is very good. I think it was never done in America, not that I know, between the blacks and the whites. And there's another group where I'm also very concerned living here, which is the Indians, the Native Americans, which are not integrated in the American soul. They are part of the American soul, but not consciously. And this is very damaging. This is hurtful for the natives, but it's damaging for all America, that this part of the American soul is not integrated. And this integration could take place in honoring the soul qualities of the natives, which had deep soul qualities. They had their shadows too, like all others. But they had the deep soul qualities which have to be honored by the present America. in order to become whole again as America, because America didn't start 1400, when was it, 89 or whatever, with Columbus. It started 15,000 years ago with the natives coming in this country. And for instance, doing a process like making a commemoration day, a big commemoration day for the native part of America, for the native part of the American soul. Such a commemoration would help and honor and heal. So there are political actions which can be done just through some conservation process. But as I said before, we don't have always the option to initiate such a collective process. We should, but we can do our own process, and this has an immense impact on the whole. This is true for the Black American too, the white and black relationship. Does this answer a little bit your point?
Yes, it does. It reinforces to me the need for these kinds of conversations and forums, and I think really the need is there. It's just wanting to make sure that we're doing it in the right way. And I was also wondering if there's anything in your experience that you can say is important to remember or pay attention to in these kinds of reconciliations.
You want to say something, Soleil? You can answer too.
Well, I think the essence is always the very deep listening to each other with the compassion to really honor the anger that comes up in the blacks and to go, yeah, I get it, you know, I'm angry too, but to also let them see you and feel you in our shame. You know, even if it wasn't our direct ancestors, the shame of what happens with slavery and the aftermath, and that, gosh, we thought we were done with all this. You know, Martin Luther King came and we just celebrated that commemoration day, and it's still going on. And I actually feel positive that in this last year there have been so many white people speaking out, and I really think that's a huge part of it. So I think it's really holding each other in the pain of the process, but also acknowledging when steps are made, and of course there's times when the steps aren't being made. So it's really staying authentic with it and continuing to feel that unity when you're on your forum, that you share a goal, and you are all coming to that from different experiences, and empowering each other, you know, because that's where the love comes out. And yes, the love is it's gonna be victorious. It is, but you know, we have to keep going there.
Thank you, Soleil. It's interesting. I think that it's through conversations like this that then one's nation or culture figures out what its destiny is. You know, in that integration that you were speaking about before, the integration of the people within the culture. But I also wondered, Wolfgang, if you had any experience in working with people from different cultures and beginning to see how, for example, the American personality or the American soul and shadow have constructed or have an impact on the soul destiny of other nations. Do you in your workshops, do you see how these things begin to how different, like the different shadows interact, for example?
Yeah, America is a very strong nation, and of course all its shadows and all its qualities are affecting the whole world. You know this. This is true for both, not just for the shadows, it's also for the
Positive, yeah.
Yeah, I said before, like this evolutionary role, it's a pioneer. America is an evolutionary pioneer in integration. I compared it later with Europe. But I mean, it's a pioneer and also in self-realization, in the important issue and point and evolutionary goal of self-realization of the individual. This is America. This is the States. The States are the country in the world which is mostly evaluating the personal self-realization, you say. And this is a precondition for evolution. Because each one of us has to be free enough from our national impacts and mythical impacts and religious background and cultural backgrounds to make a free choice. A free choice for, I said in the beginning, we are learning to determine our future, our destiny. But for this we have to be free. And the American way of life basically is evolutionary pioneering role. And on the other side, of course, the shadows, we don't have to mention them. There are so many which are affecting, of course, the world. So it's so many people like me and others have a hate-love relationship to America.
Sure.
I think many people in the world have hate-love. So they can see there's something great, and this freedom and self-realization is a point we all want to. And the other side, this misuse of power and all that, and arrogance.
Wolfgang, I would like also to come back to your image of the symphony and the orchestra that you're describing, because I think it's a very intuitive, revealing image that you're using, because just when you think about an orchestra, it's very obvious first that the different nations of the world for a long time didn't hear each other. They were basically, everyone was playing their own tunes in different parts of the world. Then when you talk about colonization, basically there were certain tunes that were forced on the whole world, and certain tunes were just forced to shut up. And what is the symphony that we want to play together? And it has to come out of the different instruments that we are playing to even find out which kind of melody we want to play together.
Right.
And to see how hearing each other and even find out which kind of music we want to play as a whole is the evolutionary task. And until now, the only thing that we achieved at this point is that part degrees we can hear each other, and some tunes were forced on the whole world. And that's the situation we're in right now. But it is a starting point to start to listen.
Right. But it's the same like with each one of us. Each one of us is evolutionary asked to find his unique mission in life, in each life. So it's the same for for a nation to find the tone. Like this tone we can contribute to the world orchestra. And each one of us is asked to contribute too, not just a nation, not just a collective. Each one of us is asked can contribute something. And the more we find our tone, our unique tone, the more beautiful the concert is becoming.
Yeah, great.
The music is getting better and better. If the more people find their own tone, the more nations find their own tone. I'll give you an example, because I mean, we can in our workshops and in other kind of approaches, you can you can go deep into the national soul and the soul of this field and this of your country, and you can feel what kind of mission there is, what kind of task. These soul qualities and the soul shadows are forming altogether a configuration which is pointing to a mission in each one of us and in each nation. And the Germans, for instance, I give you just a short example. Sri Aurobindo refers to it too. He says the Germans have two sides which are a double side of a soul. On one side, they're very practical and rational and good engineers and all that. On the other side, they are quite romantic, and longing, like the art and the music and the philosophers. And there are two sides which are not easy to combine. Either you are rational and pragmatic and an engineer, or a philosopher and a romantic poet and musician. But to combine both, and in German, the German soul field is to combine both and to make an integrated personality of both elements. And this was hardly achieved yet in Germany. Mostly one side or the other were ruling, or mostly the engineers. And there was a lot of Nazis made a lot of misuse of the romantic side. So it's a huge task, but this would be a soul mission, as I understand it, of Germany. And the same you can find in all countries, like in India, often in India. India, which has its own division, like the Muslims. Pakistan, this division, is all part of this Indian soul. I think Pakistan is part of the greater Indian soul. And the Muslims too. And I think this to reintegrate is part of the soul mission of India. That is what I think going in the Indian soul field. And so in each country you can find these tasks and missions. And just to give you this Indian Muslim example, if India would achieve to integrate the Muslim part, they would do something for the whole world, not just for themselves. They were not just making a healing of Pakistan and India. This would be a huge achievement, because if people in the world can see that the Muslims can be integrated, Islam can be integrated in a greater entity, in a soul entity, this would be a huge step for all sides.
Great.
So it's not just the personal self-realization of a country, of ourselves. We do something for the whole. The same point. The nations more.
Anine, you had a comment. Your mic is unmuted.
Okay, I wanted to connect to the beautiful metaphor of the symphony, of the orchestra. We in the Philippines, we conduct peace camps for young people from different religions, and we also have Europeans who come. And it is from our indigenous people that we learned that there is peace. We can learn peace building through music. Because they taught us that to produce beautiful music, each instrument should have space. Even the softest instrument should be heard. And we use this, as Wolfgang was saying, as an example of how each culture is precious. I read this beautiful article from Wolfgang and Soleil about giving dignity to the unique cultures of everyone. I would like to say that I think one pattern that makes us stuck and prevents this beautiful orchestra from evolving is dividing people and the whole world into victims and victimizer. I would like to speak from my own experience that I was an activist for so many years, a very angry activist. And as you know, we were colonized by the West. And many nations, and also by Japan. And the way we coped was to always blame the West for our problems. And this colonization has long finished, but of course it continues with the multinational corporations. But after a while, I realized it is continued in our mind because we always consider ourselves as victims. We have this passive aggression that we always blame. It happens in our own country. As soon as a new president is elected, there's already a rally protesting against the president. We do not know how to work together. We do not know how to accept a leader. We're always blaming. We're always victims. And I've been coming to Switzerland for many years to help with an international peace camp. And was surprised to see myself. I'm a very outspoken person. I'm a professor in the Philippines. But when I am with my sisters and brothers, the Germans and the Swiss, I easily say yes to their ideas. I cannot assert myself. And I cannot especially express negative feelings. And then when I was bringing Europeans around the Philippines, I saw Filipinos immediately saying yes to ideas, and the Europeans and the Americans immediately giving suggestions without knowing who we are. So it is this developed and underdeveloped country, victim and victimizer. If we get stuck with this, and I realize we are not finding our role as Filipinos in the world, because we always think of ourselves as poor, as needing the help. And now when I work with people from other countries who want to help, the thing that I keep telling them over and over again is the most important expertise you need to come to the Philippines is to be the expertise to help us discover our expertise. Not anymore to teach us technologies. We don't need that anymore. We have been taught so many things, and we have not progressed because we have not discovered our own music, our own tone, as Wolfgang was saying. And we're doing it among ourselves in one very powerful reconciliation ritual we did among our young Muslims, Christian, indigenous. One very touching moment was when the Muslims realized that they were not only victims, they were also hurting the other people, the other groups, by always saying that they are the victims. Then they also classify all Christians as victimizers, as oppressors. And this is stopping us from becoming one. I just remember that with this music metaphor. It is very painful to look at your own shadow. And I think it's beautiful what Wolfgang and Soleil wrote, that we have to reach the point that we can really appreciate the dignity of each other. But I think it only starts if we're also able to be humble enough to accept our own shadows and stop the blaming. Even in climate change, I am glad that it's evolving now from climate justice to climate solidarity. Before it was such a big deal how the people who give so much destruction should pay us, the victims, because the Philippines is one of the victims, should pay us for the damage. It's very painful to keep hearing to that because it's our common home. So instead of looking for who is to blame, we should start repairing. We should start preventing more damage. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's one remark I would like to do, which is, it is so distorting in our worldview that we are distinguishing or discerning between developing countries and developed countries. Because in the integral view, we are all developing. We are all in evolution. And this is completely secondary, like the industrial development or whatever. This is a certain point. But what matters is the soul evolution. And there are many developed countries, so-called, which are very unripe, undeveloped. America, for instance, is for other means, it's a developed country, but the soul-wise, it's like a very young country, like a teenager. Many countries in the world who are called developing countries, like Iran or whatever, they have a 5,000-year-old past, and many countries in the world they are much more soul developed. And this is what matters, and this is the only thing and this has to be honored, and this is what we meant in this article with dignity, because each nation, each one of us has a deep, unique dignity. This is a precondition to diseases, and this has nothing to do with outer development.
Great. That's very helpful. Great. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you. Actually, Greet had a question, Jochen, before. Greet asked the question, what if you're raised in if you're binational, if you're living in another country than your country of origin, how does that affect the contribution we have to offer to the country of origin and the one where we live?
Many people today have several countries as their home, or they're shaped by several countries, there's worldwide refugees and immigrants. In our workshop, we do it like this pragmatically. So we choose one after the other. When I say today I want to choose my American heritage or my German heritage, because both are shaping me. Like the country maybe of where I'm born, and later we immigrated, and then I'm shaped by this one too. So it's not a matter of just one country. And we are getting more complex personalities. So we are shaped by different nations. But it's for us to look for each one. And it's still a unique heritage which you get from this country and from another country, or can be more countries, but it's for us to look for each part of it.
Great.
Jochen, you raised your hand also, and I will unmute your mic. So your mic is unmuted.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Wolfgang and Soleil, for your wonderful work. And I'm pondering about if you have an idea about enactment of this whole understanding and the soul process, the individual process, and then the collective. So how can we, for example, when we are communicating all over the world now, can we help to foster this process? Are there some practical things you can suggest to us when we are in, for example, talking to people all over the world in this like communities, so that we can help to transform the process of soul evolution, and also when we are in our communal areas, how can we translate this work in our communities, in our nation and our other groups. We are always interacting in different group levels. I understood it is very important to make workshops in a kind what you and Soleil are offering. But are there other suggestions what we can do, and have you an idea about the dose of the homeostatic dose we need to go forward?
Yeah, I think one could make a new philosophy and theory out of it. And I was writing a book, and this book is just in the process of being translated in English. And this is just the words about it. I think it's very important to have a personal experience when we talk about this issue. because it's such a poisoned and undermined topic. If you talk with other people, with your friends who are completely outside, maybe integral thinking, and you say something like a soul of your country, this can create even hostility. Because there's so many people who claim, I know what the soul of America is, the Republicans or whatever, I know what the soul of America is, and I know what the soul of your country is. Nobody can know it. It's a subjective experience. Nobody can tell you what the soul of your country is. You have to experience it yourself or forget about the whole thing. So this personal experience, that you get at least a glimpse of what we are talking about, is a precondition for authenticity of this topic. If you want to talk to, as I said, to other people who are not prepared for this kind of thinking, evolution of consciousness, and all that, then one has to be very careful. Yeah.
Great.
But it's needed. On the other side, it's time to do this. So it don't mean that you all have to come in our workshop. This is not possible. We just do it occasionally. But there are other ways to experience it and other approaches who goes in this direction.
Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you for your question, Jochen, and your response, Wolfgang. I think right now we should wrap up. We went over time. We started late, and then we went a little bit over time. And so I think I'd like to say thank you again, Wolfgang, and then we'll speak a few minutes to the group. But I think we can. This has been very, very interesting, and I think very, very provocative. And I'm very curious to see what we all do with this in our groups, where we can go with this.
Thank you so much, Wolfgang.
Thank you for your interest.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe we can we unmute and everyone say thank you to Wolf?
No,
Oh, he's gone. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So we're just now at the time to wrap up the session. We went a little bit over there, and what I would like to do is to basically make clear where we want to go in your groups, and which is to stay with the exercise that Soleil brought up. The exercise of where in yourself do you experience the positive qualities of, or the positive soul characteristic of your country, and where in your and the one about the shadow. And we'd like you to speak probably first about the positive, and then about the shadow, in sequence in your group. So keep this as a contemplation in yourself between now and the time that your group meets. I'd also, I mean, hearing Wolfgang, I got a different appreciation for what the soul mission is of a country. That it's not necessarily something that seems so. It's not as obvious as I thought it might be, or that it actually requires kind of stepping back and looking at one's cultural history, and really looking at that in the context of a whole, and saying, what do we need to do that could really change things on this planet? What is our mission that could change things on this planet? And I think contemplating that for yourselves, like, what is the soul mission of my nation, and what is it that's getting in the way, and where does that live in me? That's I think where the source of the conversation that we want to have for your first dialogue group in this module.
Unless we have this smaller groups with a whole mix of nations that we tried, that different parts of the world are also together in these small groups. We are really very much looking also forward to hear from you, because it's double exciting to not just do that, but to do that also together with people from other backgrounds, and have this shared process in small groups. So I'm really looking forward for this experience, because I think it's a core part of what we are doing.
And again, we start from the assumption of prior unity as we engage with this, that the goal is to awaken world soul, and we're not there yet, because we need to do this. We need to do this work.
Because as Wolfgang even mentioned it, these two aspects, the prior unity and his world and nation soul, they do meet. When he was hinting at that, it doesn't even stop with the world. There is a cosmic centric perspective. This cosmic centric perspective has very much to do with the non-separation of it all. That basically there is one process happening, and we are not separate from this. And so to see this from both angles at the same time is something we are very much inviting you to engage in.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I know that I've heard through responses from different people that this particular holding of unity and difference is difficult.
Which it is.
It is. It's a real stretch not to flip, just flip from like, okay, now let's look at this and now let's look at this, but to be able to kind of in a certain way step back in oneself deeply enough to be able to embrace these multiple dimensions at the same time. That is integral thinking. Those of you who are familiar with integral theory through the work of, for example, Ken Wilber, rather than Aurobindo, you can get very involved in different ways of categorizing experience or so forth. But actually to develop this, you could call it soul strength or consciousness strength, to be able to hold these multiple dimensions at the same time, is the consciousness from which we're going to be able to make this new, be able to make, to evolve ourselves, our nations, and eventually the world.
And even it's more than integral thinking, it's integral in acting. Because it's easier to think integral being, because it's easier to think about this and even try to hold these different perspectives, but to manifest them as we engage with each other is quite something to do. But that's part of the evolutionary process, and it's part of what is also the power of this.
So I think we'll unmute your lines, and we'll unmute your lines, and then we can say
bye-bye.
We can say goodbye.
Bye.
Love to you.
Everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Namaste. 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 Good night. It's awfully late there, Rachel. And also we're in the Philippines. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Angela's still sleeping. Bye-bye.
Bye. It's sweet.